Hi, I'm Bossman Forex from Alpha Capital Trading, and here is why I took my US30 buys today. So as you can see on the screen, I have the before and after of the trades that I took today. And as you can see, if we come and look at the previous one, you'll notice that this was the trade. This was the trade before the CPI news was released. And finally, this is after the CPI news was released. You can see that I caught a significant push there. And to reiterate this trade, to explain this trade rather, what you're going to do is you're going to jump straight into TradingView and expound on every single aspect of this trade. So if we can zoom in right now, you'll notice that I've highlighted a few key points from the reason why I took this trade. So we will first of all break the whole thought process of why I take trades into four main particulars. So the first thing is always looking out for bias, right? Bias is what dictates whether we're going to be looking for buys or sells. And to do that, what I did was I went ahead and looked at VIX. So if we come to VIX right now, you'll notice that I have seen, if you have gone through my previous webinars, you'll realize that I've spoken about this instance here whereby we have the markets forming a gap. And you can see we also had another gap formed. This was yesterday, and then this is today. And you can see that we've been forming gaps and just continuing to the upside. So the expectation was that both gaps are filled and we see a continuation to the downside. If you look to the left, you'll notice that around this area, we've been having very significant pushes to the downside. So you can see we have one here, we have another significant push around this area, right? So you can see that we've been having very significant pushes that are happening within this price point. And so my expectation was that as we come to this area, after we've formed gaps that are not being filled, our expectation is that we can expect a drop that is coming. Similarly, you can see that that has happened in the past, whereby we formed gaps, and then after price pushes up to the upside, we have an eventual drop that fills the gap. So it doesn't happen all the time because it depends on what happens at this point. But in a nutshell, that is exactly what I was waiting for. You can see even last week, towards the end of last week, we had the same instance whereby we had a small gap, price eventually went up, and then we came back to the downside. So if VIX is telling me that if I'm expecting VIX to go down, and of course I am using the bias that there is going to be fundamental news released. So as you can see, we had this CPI news that has just been released like 3-5 minutes ago. So my expectation is that you're going to experience a heavy drop from here. So my understanding is always that VIX is inversely correlated to US30, meaning that if VIX is going up, US30 needs to be going down, and if VIX is going down, US30 needs to be going up, right? So for today's case, my bias was this, such that if we are expecting a bearish drop on US30, then I should expect, if I'm expecting a bearish drop on VIX, then I should be expecting a bullish play on US30. So once I have my bias for the day set, all I did next was now just jump into US30. And now that is what you guys can see based off this breakdown that I have here. So I can quickly take you guys through it so that you don't take so much time. But the second thing that I mentioned that we have four things that I look at in terms of my thought process, in terms of planning and executing a trade. So the first one was the bias. Second thing is that I was now looking at technical analysis. And my technical analysis is based off market structure and supply and demand, amongst other things. But for this scenario here, I used market structure. So as you guys understand, probably you do realize that market structure, what we are having here was lower highs and lower lows, right? So lower highs, as you can see, lower highs and lower lows were forming. And up till this point, this was a swing low up till this point. But the drop from, sorry about that, but the drop from this area is what took out this point. So we ended up forming a new swing low at this point. And for this whole move to constitute a nice continuation, because now you can see we have one main swing low, we have a swing high, then now we come and then we form a new low. What we ended up forming was a new high here. That was a lower high. And as we were forming this lower low, price just broke but did not close below it. So to me, I count this as manipulation because we just had enough volume just to break below, but we did not have enough momentum to continue to the downside, as opposed to what we had here. You can see here we had a break, but no close, so price has more momentum to still go up. But the moment we break below, price goes down. So in this case, we did not have that. And instead, what price did is price went to the upside. What followed next was that price, now we've already talked about this because this is the supply zone that caused the break of structure. So this is a very significant area to be looking at. Then we look at the second thing. Okay, the first thing was the drop that forms the lower low. Second thing is the supply that takes out the significant low. Third thing is that we have an overall lower low formed because of the failure to close below this level that we've talked about. So this becomes a stop hand. You can call it manipulation, depending on how you perceive things. Then as we start coming up, what we start doing is we start taking out supply zones. So we start getting strong closes and we get closes above supply zones. And as we approach this area, keep in mind that this is the hourly, right? So as we approach this area that I've drawn my blue line from, today morning's trade, right? If we can zoom in now, today morning, we have something that I like to call the failed demand zones and the failed supplies. So in our case today, we had a very nice continuation setup whereby we formed something like this and price was expecting something like this. So as you can see, we have this area that is broken and then we leave behind a demand area. So this was during London session. And all I did was I just waited for price to close above this area because as you can see, the next demand area is down below. So I didn't expect price to come all the way down here. Instead, I just waited for price to break that supply. And then after that, it was just getting in on buys. And then once I was already in profit prior to the CPI news being released, I just shifted my stop loss in a bit of profit, roughly around break even. And I just waited for the behavior that CPI always gives, whereby it gives a very strong, sharp reaction before the CPI within 1 to 3 minutes. So this was a very nice intraday position. I've caught some significant profit from this trade, as I have shown on the screenshot that I shared prior. So maybe you can go over it one last time. Let's come and look at the screenshot. Let me just share it. So as you can see, let's go to the previous one. There we go. So as you can see, what I was explaining, we have a bullish push that broke above the structure. As you can see, this area was broken, supply, and the other supply was around this area here. So the moment we broke above this failed supply, we left behind a new demand. And all I did was just get in on the demand using basic supply and demand. And then I waited for price to continue higher. So the first thing is you want to see a strong close above this area. And then this was a few minutes before this was a couple of minutes before the CPI news was released. Afterwards, price just progresses and then breaks above and we get a really nice rally to the upside. So that was the breakdown that I've had for this trade. Hopefully you can be able to understand a few things from this trade. I have expounded it to the best of my capabilities. You might have a few questions, so you can drop them down in the comments and I will be sure to respond to all of them. So that was the before and this is the after. So thank you so much for watching this video and I'll keep posting such kind of videos for you guys to understand how I view the charts. So thank you so much and see you guys in the next one. Peace.